The chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any single species could truly comprehend. Its domed ceiling shimmered with shifting constellations, a living map of the known galaxy. Delegates of 100 species murmured in 1,000. Tongues as the latest arrivals, the humans, were seated among them. At first, few paid much attention. Humanity was young, raw, barely 3 centuries into spaceflight. They had scraped their way into the stars, building ships that looked crude beside the sleek vessels of the elder races. The Council admitted, them out of routine, new blood was always useful, even if fragile. The humans called their world Earth. That was the name etched on the registration documents. The Council scribes recorded it without a second thought. A quaint name, simple, unthreatening, but fate rarely obeys bureaucracy. The archivists' discovery on. The 5th day of deliberations, as trade routes and border disputes were argued, archivist Rylos of the Kale Dominion requested the floor. A meticulous insectoid scholar, Rylos was not known for dramatics, yet his compound eyes gleamed with unease as he bowed before the council speaker. Honored delegates, his clicking voice echoed, in my duties of cross-referencing the records of this species called humans, I encountered an anomaly. He tapped his data slate, projecting a glowing glyph into the chamber. The symbol was old, older than the council itself. It shimmered with an aura of forgotten power. This symbol, Rylos continued, is tied to the human's homeworld. It does not read Earth. It reads Terra. The word hung in the air like a drawn blade. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then a murmur rose, like wind through a graveyard. Delegates stiffened, their eyes wide, their scales or feathers bristling. Even species that claimed no concept of fear shifted uneasily. The echo of forgotten wars, the speaker, a massive being of crystalline form, rumbled in disbelief. Terra? That name is forbidden, expunged, but the glyph remained, undeniable. Rylos pressed on, his mandibles twitching nervously. I searched deeper. I found fragments in the restricted archives, mentions of wars, ancient wars older than our council. Armadas burned, empires erased, the enemy named only as Terrans. The chamber fell silent. Memories stirred among the oldest races, the ones whose civilizations stretched so far back that history blurred with myth. The reptilian Threxans hissed in alarm. The avian Jari folded their wings tight. Even the stoic, stone-skinned Dern stood as if ready to flee. Terra, whispered Elder Vaith of the Threxans, her voice trembling. The world of fire, the devourer of empires. My grandsire told me tales. We dismissed them as superstition. Her eyes, slitted and sharp, turned toward the humans section. Yet here they are, returned. The human reaction. The human ambassador, a tall man named Marcus Hale, sat calmly among the storm. He did not flinch, did not protest. His expression was unreadable, his posture relaxed, as though he had been waiting for this moment. A Jari delegate slammed a winged fist on the table. This cannot be coincidence! The name was erased, purged from every archive, and yet these humans arrive bearing it once more. Another delegate screeched, We must vote! Ban them before it is too late! The chamber dissolved into chaos. Threats, demands, fear-laced cries. Species that had quarreled for centuries now found unity in their terror. And through it all, Marcus Hale simply watched. When the speaker at last restored order, demanding silence, the human finally stood. His voice was steady, almost gentle. You speak of Terra as if it were a ghost story, yet we call it home. We have never hidden the truth. It is you who buried it. The words sent another ripple through the chamber. The weight of the name. The speaker's crystalline form dimmed with unease. Do you deny the crimes of Terra? The records speak of worlds annihilated, fleets turned to ash. Marcus inclined his head. I do not deny history, but history is rarely told without bias. Perhaps Terra was feared. Perhaps we earned that fear. But ask yourselves, who wrote those records? Victors, survivors, or liars too afraid to face what they saw? A chilling pause followed. Delegates exchanged nervous glances. The humans' calmness was more terrifying than threats would have been. Elder Vaith hissed softly. Whether truth or lie, the galaxy remembers. Terra means fire, ruin, and death. That name is etched into our bloodlines. We will not allow it to rise again. Marcus's faint smile did not waver. And yet here we stand. Peaceful. Patient. We did not come with fleets. We came with words. The Council's dilemma, the chamber now teetered between fear and uncertainty. Some demanded Earth's immediate eradication, better to burn the seed before it became a tree. Others counseled caution, wary of provoking a force remembered only in nightmares. For the first time in centuries, the Council was paralyzed. No consensus could be reached. Each option carried doom, strike first, and risk awakening the very monster they feared. Allow humanity to remain and risk history repeating itself. Attempt to control them, though no one dared guess the price. In the end, the speaker declared an emergency recess. The Council must deliberate in private chambers. Until then, humanity will remain as observers only. The whispered reactions. Outside the chamber, fear spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, old archives were reopened, forbidden scrolls unsealed. Everywhere, the same word echoed, Terra. Children were warned not to speak it aloud. Priests muttered prayers to keep it at bay. Military strategists quietly drafted contingency plans. Some civilizations even began evacuating border colonies, as if expecting Terra's wrath to fall at any moment. And yet, on Earth, Terra, life continued as normal. Humans lived, worked, laughed, unaware of the storm their true name had unleashed. The ambassador's message that night, alone in his quarters, Marcus Hale transmitted a secure message to Earth. His face, unreadable in public, now softened. They know, he said simply. The Council has remembered. The name is no longer hidden. He paused, then added, and they are afraid. For a moment he hesitated, as though weighing centuries of silence. Then he whispered words not meant for alien ears. Terra awakens. Across the galaxy, fear echoed. Not because humans threatened war. Not because they boasted of conquest, but because of the way they carried themselves, calm, patient, assured. The predators of the stars, who had crushed countless rivals, now found themselves staring at an ancient truth they had hoped was gone forever. The humans had returned. The Terrans had risen, and the galaxy trembled at the sound of their name. The Galactic Council chamber glittered beneath its vaulted dome, a place where stars themselves seemed to hang suspended in living light. Delegates from 100 worlds argued, their voices rising in layered tongues. To most, it was just another cycle of politics, trade disputes, border tensions, the endless theater of galactic diplomacy. But in the corner, at the edge of the chamber where the newest species were permitted to sit, the humans remained silent. They were unusual, these humans. Unlike other young races, they did not posture, did not beg for trade routes or flaunt their strength. They watched, listened, waited. And that stillness unsettled the galaxy more than aggression ever could. The scholar's discovery far from the Council's center, in the deep libraries of the Krith Dominion, Scholar Viel traced his claws along the stone of an ancient ruin. The glyphs etched into it were older than any empire, their meaning long debated by academics. But today, something shifted. The word formed clearly beneath his study. Terra. Viel froze. He had seen the name before, faintly referenced in fragmented archives, but never with clarity. The glyph was surrounded by warnings, not written in the cold language of historians, but in desperate script, carved with trembling hands. Do not awaken Terra. Do not let them name themselves. When Terra rises, the stars will burn again. A chill passed through his scales. He knew at once what it meant. The newcomers, the quiet ones, had not given their true name. They were not simply humans from Earth. They were Terrans. The revelation. The council met the next cycle in full assembly. Vale requested to speak. The Krith were respected for their scholarship, and the chamber quieted as he projected the glyph into the air. This, Viel rasped, is the true name of the human homeworld, not Earth as they call it, but Terra. And these glyphs are not neutral records. They are warnings, warnings carved by civilizations that no longer exist. Murmurs swept the chamber. The oldest delegates shifted uncomfortably. They remembered stories told by their ancestors of wars fought against an enemy too ruthless to name aloud. The crystalline speaker's voice resonated. Explain, scholar. Viel's claws trembled. The archives speak of fire, of fleets shattered like glass, of worlds silenced. Always, the name Terra stood at the heart of it. It was erased from record, buried, but not forgotten. All eyes turned toward the human delegation. The human. Ambassador Marcus Hale rose slowly, every movement deliberate. His face was calm, his expression unreadable. You speak of Terra as if it were a monster beneath your beds, a tale to frighten hatchlings. Yet Terra is simply our home. If you see monsters in that word, perhaps it is your memory, not our history, that haunts you. His voice carried no threat, but the lack of denial chilled the chamber more than open defiance would have. A Jari delegate spread his wings sharply. Do not mock us, human. The glyphs are clear. The galaxy remembers what you are. Hale's lips curved faintly, almost kindly. And yet here we stand. Not with war fleets, not with demands, with words, with patience. Perhaps you should ask yourselves, if we were the same as your myths, would you still be here to speak of them? The council's fear. The chamber dissolved into chaos. Some screamed for humanity's banishment. We cannot risk letting Terra rise again. Others hissed caution. If they are who the records claim, striking first may doom us all. A few whispered of destiny. Perhaps the galaxy is meant to be remade. For the first time in centuries, fear united the council, not into action, but into paralysis. No vote could be agreed upon. Every option seemed a trap. The speaker finally struck the floor with his staff. This matter requires deliberation. Humanity will remain under observation until the council decides. But the decision had already been made, though none dared say it aloud. They were terrified. The whispered storm news could not be contained. Within cycles, the whispers spread. Merchants carried them along star lanes. Smugglers wove them into rumors. Priests turned them into sermons. Everywhere, the same word passed from mouth to mouth. Terra. Colonies at the edges of council space began fortifying. Armies drilled in secret. Old doomsday weapons were dusted off and readied. The galaxy remembered not through logic, but through instinct, the same primal dread that predators feel when another, greater predator returns to the hunt. And humanity? Humanity said nothing. The silent message. That night, Marcus Hale sat alone in his quarters. The council chamber still echoed in his mind, not the arguments, but the fear, the way ancient species had recoiled at a single word. He opened a secure channel, his voice low. They know. The glyphs have been read. The council fears us. A reply came, distorted but firm. Do they know the truth? Hale's eyes narrowed. No. Only the name. That is enough. The voice was silent for a long time, then answered, Good. Let them tremble at shadows. The longer they fear, the longer we prepare. Hale closed the channel and looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. Cold, endless, waiting. Across the galaxy, fear moved faster than fleets. Civilizations sharpened their knives against a foe that had not yet drawn one. Armies readied themselves for a war that humanity had not declared. But in their hearts, the elder races knew the truth. Their fear did not come from human weapons or even human actions. It came from the humans' silence, from their calmness, from the way they carried themselves like predators who did not need to prove their place. The galaxy did not fear what humanity might do. It feared what humanity had already done long ago under the name Terra, and now that name had been spoken again. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The Hall of Records was a quiet place. Tucked beneath the gleaming spires of the Galactic Council, it held centuries of treaties, star maps, and census logs. For most, it was a place of dust and monotony, far from the power struggles above. For Jaira, a young record-keeper of the Ilthari species, it was her entire world. She enjoyed the silence, the order of it. Each new species admitted to the Council brought paperwork, pages of cultural data, planetary designations, and diplomatic codes. Today, it was the turn of a small blue world on the edge of a spiral arm. Its inhabitants called themselves humans. Their world, they said, was named Earth. Jaira entered the name into the central archive system. The console blinked, thought for a moment, and then something strange happened. A crimson glyph appeared, not the usual record prompt, but an ancient seal, one that had not been unlocked in millions of cycles. The seal. Breaks Jaira frowned, antennae twitching. She had studied the archives since her youth, but she had never seen this symbol. It pulsed with old authority, a lock meant for more serious matters than trade documents. With nervous fingers, she requested access. The system hesitated, then opened. A wave of forbidden data flooded the screen. Old war reports, scorched planetary registries, coalition death counts. Again and again, one. Word appeared, etched in a language so ancient she barely recognized it. Arathea. Her breath caught. This wasn't Earth. This was something else. Whispers of a forgotten war against protocol, she read deeper. The records told of a world not newly risen, but once banished. Arathea, a cradle of flesh and iron. Its children had built machines of terrible beauty and wielded weapons that could unmake suns. They had swept across sectors like fire across dry grass. Entire empires had risen against them, forming desperate coalitions. And still, the children of Arathea broke them. The archives did not speak of mercy, only silence. Silence where civilizations had once been. It had taken a final sacrifice, a war of extinction, to bury them. The victors erased every trace of Arathea, sealing the records, swearing that if by some chance the world rose again, none would speak its name. And yet, here it was, returned, disguised under a gentler word. Earth. Jaira's hands trembled. She should have reported the anomaly, in silence. She should have sealed it again. But fear drove her to the council chambers, data slate clutched in her shaking fingers. The revelation. The council was in session, debating tariffs when she burst through the doors. A record keeper had no right to interrupt, but her terror made. The chamber paused. "Honored speaker," she stammered, bowing low. "I beg forgiveness, but a mistake has been uncovered. The species you welcomed, the humans, their world's name is not Earth. The archives say it is Arathea." The chamber froze. Delegates shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking toward the human representatives seated quietly along the edges. The speaker frowned. That name is forbidden. Jaira swallowed. Yet it is true. The seal opened. The records, they speak of Arathea as a scourge, a terror buried in blood. The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices rose, accusations flew. Some screamed for immediate extermination. Others demanded proof. The speaker struck the floor with his staff, demanding silence. Summon the human ambassador. The human's calm Marcus Hale entered the chamber with quiet steps. He wore no armor, carried no weapons, yet all eyes fixed on him as though he bore a bomb. The speaker's crystalline form glowed with unease. Ambassador Hale, our archives name your world not as Earth, but as Arathea. Do you deny it? Hale's lips curved in a faint smile. We have many names for our home. Earth, Terra, and yes, Arathea. Names carry weight, speaker. Some inspire pride. Others inspire fear. We learned long ago which to use and when. A shiver passed through the chamber. His calmness was worse than defiance. You admit it then, hissed the reptilian delegate of the Threxans. You are the children of the war that nearly ended us all. Hale's eyes hardened, just for a moment. We admit nothing. We stand, here in peace. If you tremble at a name, that is your burden, not ours. The council fractures. The chamber exploded again, but now the divisions were clear. Some demanded preemptive war. Burn them now before the old fire spreads again. Others argued for watchful containment. We cannot risk open conflict, but neither can we let them grow unchecked. A few, though, spoke in hushed tones of prophecy. The return of Arathea was foretold. Perhaps the galaxy's chains are meant to break. For the first time in centuries, the council could not agree. The speaker, normally a pillar of order, flickered with uncertainty. The council will recess for deliberation. Humanity shall remain under observation. But the damage was already done. Fear had taken root, and fear spreads faster than truth. The galaxy reacts news leaked within days. Whispers carried across star lanes, faster than official decrees. Pilots muttered, in bars. Priests spoke of ancient warnings. Border colonies began to evacuate, convinced that war would soon follow. Everywhere, the same word echoed, Arathea. A word spoken with dread, as though saying it too loudly might draw its attention. Armies mobilized quietly. Fleets shifted along borders. Civilizations that had lived in fragile peace suddenly sharpened their blades again. All because of a name. The human's message. That night in his quarters, Marcus Hale stared out a viewport at the swirl of the galactic core. His comlink blinked. He opened a secure channel, his face illuminated by its glow. They found it, he said simply. The seal is broken. The name has returned. A voice on the other end was calm, resolute. And the reaction, Hale's. Lips tightened. As expected, panic, division, fear. The voice was silent for a long moment, then replied, Good. Fear will buy us time. The transmission ended. Hale stood in the quiet, his reflection staring back at him. Not smiling, not frowning, only patient. The galaxy had spent eons forgetting Arathea. Now, with a single bureaucratic error, the memory had returned. Not with fleets, not with weapons, but with a whisper, a word, and sometimes a word is more powerful than fire. The humans, Erethians, waited, not rushing, not boasting, but watching as fear unraveled the council's fragile unity. For the galaxy had already revealed the truth. They were more terrified of remembering humanity than of fighting them, and humanity knew it.